is Brenda K-Star, and you're listening to Harv Roman on 88.7. All right, baby, bye.
And to the Celebrity Hotline, we go over at extrememixradio.com and all of the other platforms. And since 2017 now, and if you go back to 1985, like none of this existed. To the Celebrity Hotline, Jose Gringo Echevarria, are you there?
Yes, I am. What's going on, Harv? How's everybody doing? First of all, I want to say thank you for talking to you at Extreme Radio. It's an honor. I am so happy that I'm able to share this conversation with you and all my projects. Thanks for that.
Yeah, well, and it's crazy, too, because the platforms now that exist didn't exist back when you were in your heyday with the All-Star Dancers, so it's kind of interesting that over 30 years later, we talk about doing a radio interview, but then it's going to be one of those that people could carry in their pocket, punch up on a YouTube, go on a Facebook. It doesn't end. Back when I was at 90.5 FM, we had to give people tips about aluminum foil and forks and coke hangers just to get the radio station.
Yeah, we did what we had to do to get our radio. But no, you're right. You know, and I'm really proud, and that's why I'm really happy to be talking with you. You know, because I know that this type of platform is going to get to a lot of people, and they're able to hear it and kind of just give their own opinion. So that's pretty cool, Harv.
Hey, we only connected on Facebook like in 2011, and then a couple of years later, we started talking about doing interviews, and we're only doing it now in 2017 because of an insane amount of circumstances. But
So,
back when
so,
back when you were in I guess the peak of it all, and I was there at the Rainbow in 1985. That must have been the peak because of the Great Battle of the Dancers. Who would have thought that 32 years later, we're still having conversations about
yeah, it's pretty amazing because I don't regret anything from back in the day. I mean, the rainbow, the battles, we were each other's fans, we were each other's rival, we were each other's shoulder. So, and talking to you about it now at the age of that I am, it's pretty cool because I like to share it with the young generation or the generation from now so they can see how we did it, how we partied, and how we dreamed, and how we made it happen.
Well, the funny thing is, the younger generation is usually not interested in hearing the stories about back in the day. But when I was talking about this on the radio shows, I talked about how this is kind of how things were settled. Now, the Rainbow was in 1985, and our buddy from Talcott School, one of my personal friends, Shabadu, Adolfo Quinones, came out with the Breaking movie in 83, 84, and they were settling things battling, dancing, and that's what we talked about. We're like, it wasn't that you were going toe to toe. You weren't looking for a baseball bat or a chain. You were looking for a spot to battle, and then it was basically let's dance out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, that was really raw on the street. That's the way it was. You would be dancing, and you would be being approached by another dance group, and you had to, represent. And it was right there that everyone would separate the dance floor, and you had to go for it. So yeah, that's the way it was.
Can you flash back to 1985? And it's interesting because we crossed paths back then. We just didn't know it because I was managing the young group from Westtown called the Zodiacs, and then you were in there with the All Stars along with the other groups that were battling, such as Troy's Colitos, and we crossed paths. We were all at the same place, same time, and it's interesting to me that we could get the Rainbow Roller Rink or Roller Disco at the time to be filled with 3,000 people in the name of a battle of dance groups.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. It happened all over the city. At that time, we didn't really realize or really, notice the impact that it was, but yeah, it was pretty amazing.
What do you remember from that Rainbow atmosphere?
Well, the Rainbow was pretty infamous for a lot of battles because you had to have a big event or a big battle. So once you knew you were going to the Rainbow for any kind of dance or battle, it was going to be packed with, especially because of the size, and from all over the city. So that's one of the things that we already knew when we would go into the Rainbow. Then other places around Chicago where we had that was pretty big too, like the Aragon. The Golden Tier. That's I think it's still on Cicero, if I'm not mistaken.
And the interesting thing too was that you guys took it so seriously. You're talking about the costumes. You're talking about the time spent in practicing for it. So it wasn't just let's go meet at the corner and go toe to toe. It was if the battle was in August, you guys are practicing for like February.
Yeah, you know what, Harv? After a while, personally for me and my group, after being battling on the streets and in the clubs and in the basement and in the yards and in the whatever it was, we did it and we loved it. But after a while, it got to a point where we wanted to go a little bit further and take chances and kind of, move it up a notch. So yeah, everything had to be perfect, costumes, music, sometimes even the lighting. So I would put a lot of acting into it. So yeah, it had a lot. We kind of grew.
The Hard book came out a few years ago. What gave you the idea to put out a book based on the culture, the dance culture that was happening in Chicago at the time. When I first got a hold of it, it was an accident actually. I went to Lily's record store. I don't remember what I was looking for. And there's this book, and it's looking at me. And the All Star Dancers, of course, I remembered because back in the day I was doing DJ work. And so I decided to pick it up, and I read it, and we somehow connected on Facebook and had some, kind of had our own little flashbacks, based on the book. What?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And again, thank you, because there you were, you were right on time. You seen the book, and as you know, you connected to it. And that's pretty cool. And well, you're talking about the Real Dance Fever, book. Yes. Well, what made me finish that book and get it done is that, like you and I are doing right now. There's a generation, especially here in Chicago, and that's how we do. We talk about back in the day. We're connected. That was our history. So this is my view of what I went through with a lot of young friends of mine that were learning, wanting to dream, wanting to dare, the music, the DJs. I mean, it was a whole world. And I wanted to share it with everyone, from my heart. A lot of goofballs, the friends, places, faces, the fashion, the big shoulder pads. I mean, it's a pretty amazing, funny story from my heart, and I'm glad that day you connected with me about it, because other people read it and they give me a response, and that's people that I've never met, and that's pretty cool, because they like our story. But when someone from the circle gets it and they reach out, I'm like, wow, you got it, it touched you, it took you to where I hoped it was.
Well, what's insane is I was so much in the circle that I would go to Pinky's house every now and then, because I was running a radio station, and he would donate tickets to his events to the radio station, and then of course I'd go to those events, and on a couple of occasions I helped to host, like the Pan American Festival. And it wasn't until I read the book that I'm like, that dude's Pinky's brother. How could we not have run into each other?
Yeah, well, you see, that's what I'm saying. You see how it's a small circle, I would go, you're talking about, there's a gap in between us, meeting and a lot of us getting back together, and, things happen, in life, and, sometimes we have to slow down, and so we have to take some turns in life, but every time we come together with one of our friends or a familiar face or someone that you say, oh, you remember this day, yeah, and you connect, it's amazing. So, I just thought to myself, you know what? A lot of people talk about a lot of different situations that happened back then, and I started thinking, I'm going to write my view, because if I keep saying and talking about it, then I'm going to do it, and I'll never do it. So I just wanted to have something in history for us that we mark down, that it's already there, that people can go and see it and pick it up and say, oh, I remember that place, or I remember, I mentioned a lot of songs from back then that we battled to, a lot of DJs, a lot of places that we used to go to that probably are not there now, but, but that was our history.
Well, that's a process too, because you had to go about self-publishing this book. I mean, you put it out. Jose Echevarria put it out. You didn't wind up at Random House or something like that. You put out your own book. So that was an undertaking. That's kind of a passionate thing to do, because it's really a niche that'll get into the book, and then once the book is out there and the stories are out there, then people will start jumping on it and having their flashbacks. But when you were planting the seed for this thing, boy, that must have been difficult. How did you say, you know what? Not only am I going to write this thing, I'm going to put it out también.
Okay, well, I don't want to bring your listeners down or anything, but like I said, things happen in life where we have to stop sometimes, and that's what happened to me. I was determined to write this book, and believe it or not, I had a journal with me every time, every day. I was on vacation, I had a journal. Something good, I had a journal. Something bad, I had a journal. Something nothing, I had a journal. But then something happened to me. I got ill, and I thought that was it, it made me stop. And as I stopped for a while, the only thing that kept me going, believe it or not, was writing. And I was sitting there in bed or in the hospital or wherever I was, but I was writing, dude. And I was writing, and those memories of back in the day kept me laughing on that bed. And not only that the goal that I said to myself, well, now you have to see it done. And I needed to see it done. And that's how I finished it, because it was a personal goal, because as I was writing it, I was writing it for fun and because I needed to get there. But then I got, where I couldn't do it. And I said to myself, no, you have to finish this now. So that's why it's real personal, real special, this book.
Well, not only did you finish it, you came up with a part 2 on Amazon Kindle, The Journey. So you had plenty more stories than just the book.
That's funny. That's funny you say I came up with a part 2. Well, actually the truth is that, that was all part 1, but with the editor and working with the team that was helping me, they actually said, you're writing almost the Bible here, so we got to cut it down. So what we're going to do is they're really the same story, but the first story is, when we're younger and the dreams and the innocent moments and the music and the times of the 80s, the 70s, and really getting to know me personally. Part 2 of the book is a little, we're older, things happen, reality hits us, it's not as nice sometimes, the dreams are a little hard to get, and the trust is a little broken, so it gets a little darker and a little deeper. But there's the same story together, it's just, the continuance. Yeah.
We're just about the same age. I was at Wells High School, class of 81. You were at Calvin Park. We both wound up spending time in Humboldt Park, which at the time wasn't exactly a picnic, and I'm sure that we saw it a little differently than others did. How important was it to be grounded in a community such as Humboldt Park at the time?
Humboldt Park was a time that was a challenge, especially for young kids, and especially for young gay kids that were trying to be expressive, and especially kids that were just experimenting with their fashion or however they wanted to express themselves. So, and the neighborhood was always a little challenging because anything different created, attention. And sometimes being different was the way that some of the young people wanted to express themselves. So it was challenging sometimes, but actually, and also sometimes it felt protective too, because when we would go some other places or we know where we come from, it was sort of kind of a protection. So it was like, both at the same time.
Let's talk about Troy for a minute. Troy and I were at Wells at the same time, same classroom, same class of 81,
Lord have mercy.
Well, and we were in the same division class, but what stands out to me is that you guys are buddies, but you were not in the same dance group. So how might that work out when you're competing with somebody and you wind up becoming just about best friends?
Yeah. Let me tell you, I love Troy to death. When you talk about Troy, I feel like that character that goes, well, nobody talk about my Troy, but I'll turn around and talk about him. But nobody talk about my Troy. Listen, man, Troy took me, a lot of the characters in the book, a lot of the characters in the book are really my insecurities that I didn't know I had, and I had. So, when I met Troy, that was one of my insecurities. I was really shy, and I was like, really introverted, and I was like, I don't know. And I had to meet him because they said, you're going to battle the imported, and I was like, oh, shit, I got to go meet this guy. And I went into this place called the Mirador that used to be on North Avenue, and there he was dancing on the dance floor by himself with a little tennis outfit with real shorts, all in white, with a white bandana around his head, a cherry cloth wiping up his sweat and dancing. And I was like nervous. I was like, damn, how do I introduce myself to this guy? He was dancing. Oh man, he was dancing like a mix of James Brown and Prince and and a little Donna Summer in it. It was so cool. That's my boy, and I stood there and I said, "Hey, what's going on? This is Gringo," and he didn't care. He was still dancing in place, saying, "Okay, you're Gringo," and he goes, "From what?" And I said, "From the All Stars." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And I go, "No, I just want to meet you, and say hello." He goes, "Oh, okay." And when I started walking away, he shouted, "Hey, you better get your ass over here. You better get your dance." And we started dancing, and ever since then we were, together. Even till now, we're still hooked.
And I will say,
we always.
and I will say this: freshman year at Wells High School was 40 years ago, 1977. Troy is the same now as he was back then. He's the genuine article, and he hasn't changed for anyone.
No.
Troy is Troy.
Yeah.
There's another name that's.
I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Troy. I really have learned a lot. Troy has, defended me, protected me. Troy has. I had put Troy in different positions where he's like, "I'm gonna kill you. You talk crazy, gigantic," but he does it. It's like a Lucy kind of Echo kind of stuff, or Lauren Hardy, because we do what we do, and then when we get thrown out or embarrassed, he taught me one thing: you just laugh, Gringo. You just laugh. Isn't that something? Just laugh. We go to the next, and they'll accept us, and that's awesome. I learned that from him. So it's funny you mentioned him. It kind of gets me in my throat, but it's beautiful. He's my friend, and I love him. Yeah, and we used to party together back then. We used to compete back then, But it didn't matter. He can be rehearsing with the imported taste, and then after his rehearsal, there he was, at my rehearsal, showing us what he was gonna do, and we're showing him what we're gonna do. It was just like that. It was so cool that it wasn't,
Well, one of the coolest things about that era was that a dance group was the attraction. The DJs were the attraction. You didn't have to have 6 performers on a bill. You didn't have to have a headliner. The headliners were the dancers, and people were paying to see the dance groups. And when you would go out, to Janelle's or a place like that, or what's the other one I'm thinking about on North Avenue? They used to have a big old place on North Avenue down towards Cicero. People would pay to go to these parties, and they were not expecting to see anybody sing. They were expecting to see the personalities that they had come to know from all the battles.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's exactly right. Yeah. And when you're talking about personalities, it reminds me, about the book, because of the nice response that I had for the book. Now we're working on. I wanted to kind of mention to you that we're working on a musical play, and it's coming out really cool, and I'm having some really great people structuring out the script. And then I also have sent you some music that I'm working on with a great music producer. His name is Numo Dan. He's wonderful, man. He's amazing. And the great Ariel Reynolds, that's going to be singing for August 5th. I hope you can make it. It's on a Saturday.
Right. Well, whatever information I have, if I can get there, I will. And you're right. I've been playing the first single you sent me, and it's got the elements of house music that has been missing for a long time. I said on the air that, if you remember Daryl Pandy, who's no longer with us, he and Keith Nunnally were the 2 voices of house music back in the day, and the vocals that are delivered on the single that you sent me is very reminiscent of what was happening when house music was actually house music before it got watered down.
Yeah, I mean, I love those days, and the music was awesome, especially when we used to go back in the days, like to the Rays. It was just, it used to take us away, I'm just happy that I'm able to, do what I love to do, I'm able to get the music done, thank you. I'm so grateful. Especially, like I mentioned, with this guy named Numo Dan. He's a great music producer and passionate. And then not only that, I'm able to write, 17 house songs, and then I have a great powerhouse singer, Ariel Reynolds.
Right.
I mean, God's wonderful. I mean, powers that be for anybody is wonderful, and that's why, I'm thankful that, look at that, I'm even talking to you, I don't know what's going to happen, tomorrow, but look at, hey, you have a recording, and here we are, and I'm letting you know, what I'm doing, and telling your fans and telling your public, because anything's possible, especially for people that are going through some hard times or some difficult times, and you have a passion or something that you want to stick to, and you feel that, you want to give it up. It comes back around. It'll come back around to you, and you'll get it, and you'll feel that passion again, and that's why I'm really happy that I'm able to share this with you, And then, like I said, the music that I sent you, one of the songs is called "We Are House People," and it's going to be performed on August 5th by Ariel Reynolds. And it's produced by Numo Dan, and I wrote it. So I hope you like it, because it's really special. I mean, it's like a house anthem kind of a stuff. Really nice lyrics, really great bass. And I'm really excited for your listeners to kind of check it out.
Where in Chicago are you performing August 5th?
We're performing at Lincoln Park. They're going to have the Sojak Digital Boogie Fest Part 2, and it's free to the public. Of course, you can bring your blankets, you can bring chairs, just bring your boogie shoes to dance. They're going to have a big lineup of house DJs, and since it falls on my birthday, look at that. Can I get more lucky? I want to play the lotto, but they may not pay me here.
There you go.
And then. And it falls on my birthday, so I've been working with Sojak Digital label, so they like the song "Believe in Love," so they asked me, if I would perform it. So it's kind of my big first performance, in public with a big audience. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm proud because I wrote that song and the one that Ariel Reynolds is going to sing. We Are House People, and so. Yeah, so it's like an exclusive, I'm really happy, and a premiere at the same time.
It ought to be fun. I expect to be there. We're talking to Jose Gringo Echevarria. He's the author of The Real Dance Fever, and then The Journey, which was just kind of an extension of The Real Dance Fever. Is the book still available? Because I would imagine, because it was self-published, that there would have been a limited run, but I wonder if somebody wanted to pick up the book or order the book. Is that still a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still on Amazon, on AmazonKindle.com. It's still there, and also if anyone wants a hard copy, you can reach me on Facebook. Jose Echevarria. You can reach me there, and I'll be more than happy to hook you up with the book.
I'm gonna. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also any information that you want.
I'm going to selfishly mention Doris. Doris was in the group that I managed on the same night that we crossed our paths at the Aragon Ballroom. The difference between the Zodiac dancers and the All-Star dancers back then is that the Zodiacs were kids. they were basically teenagers. I don't know if any one of them might have been a freshman. At the most, they would have been sophomores back then. And you're still connected now as friends. Did you have a recollection of them meeting up with you back at the Aragon, or did you guys, at the Rainbow, or did you guys meet up later on in life and then compare notes and says, wait a minute?
You know what? This is my recollection. There were so many dance groups back then. And what I really admired and what I really liked Harv was about not the name of the dance group, but what used to get my attention was in the individual dancers. It really stood out. That would really captivate me. I was like, wow, now, I'm sure that back then, because I had people and every group had people and everybody represents their people, I'm sure there was always some side talk. But, me, Personally, I never looked at it so much like that because, at time when if I'm not mistaken, I have talked to some of the Zodiacs and some other people that I have run into, and it's been, as far as I'm concerned, it's been a real pleasant, talk or encounter. And I'm going to tell you another thing, too. One of the reasons why I felt comfortable about writing the book was because, I didn't want to feel regrettable and feel that I said something or I did something to any of my all-stars or anyone in general that will come and haunt me. And then when I got to the age where I thought of it, and then I said, oh wow, I never misleaded them, or I never thought that I really, mistreated them or abused them or used them, or nothing that I can say to myself, wow, I don't want to look at them because I'll feel embarrassed, So, when you tell me that, yeah, I'm sure there was a little bit of something, but I do remember that the Zodiacs were great, energetic dancers, and they were younger, they were way younger, and they were very, they were up to their game because even when they were young, at that age, they were keeping up with all the other dance groups. And back then, there were so many dance groups that sometimes, some of them just they just fell out. They were like, okay, we're not a dance group no more, so we join you, you know what I'm saying? It's awesome when you mention the Zodiacs. It's really awesome when I hear that because that's also a group that there with the test of time, just like the All-Stars. I wrote a book. Okay, fine, I wrote a book. But, the memories of the All-Stars are the memories of the Zodiacs in their way. The Zodiacs and the Importeds, we're all individual back then, but we're all the same now because we're all representing that same history.
Yeah, well, Jose, it's history and it's a culture too, and it kind of was like a counterculture to whatever else may have been out there, because there were people that were getting in trouble, and then there were people that were staying out of trouble. And so you guys had the types of groups. You guys did the types of things that parents were okay with. It's like, I'm gonna go practice at Jose's house. I'm gonna go to Pinky's. I'm gonna go to Commercial Park. I'm gonna go to Calvin Humble, and we're gonna practice. And parents were okay with it. There's a big difference between getting an endorsement from a mom and her not worrying than having somebody go out and come home at 3 a.m. and mom has no idea. You guys were doing some positive things.
Well, yeah, but see, we didn't know that. See, that's another thing that I'm talking about. It's like, look at this, Harv. I love kids. I've always loved kids, but I didn't know back then that I had kids. I had like 30 kids, and I had to know. Sometimes just like you just mentioned right now, bro. You just mentioned it right now. Sometimes the parents will come up to me and bring them to me. Okay, he's gonna stay here with you. And I was like, yeah, he is. Yes, she is. He's not going nowhere. No, she's not. No, he's not. Sometimes, I would have to go pick them up from trouble or whatever. But I had to make sure those kids, when they left me and they were with me, that they were in good hands. And it's funny because we would get gigs, and sometimes I didn't even know what kind of gigs it were. When we would end up there, I was like, oh my God, I was so scared because I had to bring these kids home. So yeah, I learned from that, and it scared me, and that's why that's why I said, well then I didn't really do anything disgusting or ridiculous or disrespectful that I can say, at that time, because there was a lot of everything, like you just mentioned. There was a lot of good, there was a lot of people doing bad, there was a lot of experimenting. Everything's not just sweet and sugar. We've seen a lot of things. A lot of friends passed away. A lot of people that we were so used to seeing, we don't know what happened. So yeah, it's fun, but it's also life, and it took us to now look at where we are, and we can talk about it. And that's pretty cool because, hey, we were right here when all that, we were in the midst when everything happened.
One of the things I want to talk about before we go, as we run out of time, is earlier in the interview, you talked about lifestyles and being judged and being accepted. 30 some years ago, it was difficult to be able to have a different lifestyle and have people understand it. When we were in high school, you could count on one hand, who was in a certain lifestyle and who wasn't, and then you kind of had to tiptoe around because you didn't know how people would accept it. Now it's come to the point where it's not even a question anymore. So things have progressed pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I think about that a lot because when I was young, I never, I wasn't that, open. I just wasn't. I was really shy. I was just really shy, But that's why I applaud and I like the ones that were really out there, really loud, because those were the ones that were like, I am who I am and I'm right here, But I never thought I would see the changes that I've seen so far. And then to see the young people now, it's not like a big old taboo. It's like, so what? I did that a long time ago. Maybe I didn't do that, so what? And maybe she is, or maybe he is, and so what? That's pretty cool because life is more than that, It's the love that we give to each other. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. But when we were back then, I think that when I got the courage to be a little bit more open. I wasn't saying here I am. I was just being a little bit more open was when I started being with the groups, because when you were when everybody was together with the dance groups, and I mean like they're all together, like whether it was the Imported, the Zodiac, the All Stars, the AKs, whatever it was, everyone was together. And in between, we had the boys that were boys. They were just they're hanging around. But those boys, kind of, lean to the fashion, the style. So we all mixed in, just really cool. And that little part was so comfortable. So when we were together and wherever we were, whether it was Janelle's or the Rainbow, Givenchy, wherever we were, Aragon, wherever we were, when we walked around, everyone can see, wow, these are those dancers from, North Side of Chicago, the West Side of Chicago, You can see we all had a distinct style that we all kind of like gravitated to. But now everything's out in the open and everything's different, and I'm really happy and proud. I mean, especially for the young kids, because back then I used to have a lot of kids that were really shy and didn't know how to express themselves, and sometimes they express themselves too much, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like too much for me. Can you imagine the parents? So I had a lot of episodes with a lot of different characters that were ready to be free. But let me tell you, man, a lot of those young kids back then that wanted to be really free and the world and society wasn't ready for them were the ones that, opened my eyes and made me think they just wanted it. They were trying to tell everybody, society's not ready, but I'm ready. And can you imagine they were ahead of their time because they were ready. They could wear what they wanted to wear. They knew when they were walking down the neighborhood, especially, that they were going to get chased.
As a
matter of fact, I read about that, how a couple of the dance groups from the other dance groups would have to run down the neighborhood, to meet us for rehearsal because they knew they would have to get chased like half of the block.
Well, that was one of the things that stood out for me in your book as I'm reading the book. You guys got to the point where you became accepted by the so-called street gangs and stuff. It's like you could go into somebody else's neighborhood in full costume, which is going to either be the color or not the color, wherever you happen to be, and then somebody's going to say, wait a minute, they're cool. And it wouldn't have been like that if you guys had not become a force in the dance world.
Yeah, you're right, man. That's what I was talking about, feeling safe after a while in Mumble Park, because after a while, that's how it got, There we were, walking down the street, walking to rehearsal, or walking to a performance or a battle, and there's like about 20 of us, 25 of us, costumes, and then you see the boys of the hood, standing in the porches, freaking out, saying hello, representing, but that's it.
Hey, how strong is it to see how big dance has become with national TV shows and competitions and stuff? Because back then, we're talking about the real Dance Fever. Dance Fever was a TV show on Saturday nights, and it was only a half hour. And Denny Terrio would give like a little lesson at the end of the show, and that was it for Dance Fever. And the half hour, that's it. Now you can turn on the TV, be it regular TV or cable, and there are dance shows all over the place.
Well, I think it's wonderful because, see, back then when I say we, me, all those kids and me and everyone, we dreamed and we wanted to be, we kind of probably seen that vision that we wanted to be on stage and we wanted to dance and we wanted to dance powerful and we wanted to dance exaggerated and we wanted to dance with passion, and now the outlets are so endless, that it gives so much opportunity for a lot of people. So I think it's wonderful. And me, as an old schooler, I can still create and imagine these wonderful choreographies in my head, even with the styles that I see today. The power, and all the energy. So, I mean, I love it, you never stop loving that. It's a great question, though, because, it still kind of feeds me, in a way, that part of my art, when I see these young people competing and dancing. And not only that, when I see them competing, and they're standing there, it's like they're raw, and I know they're hoping, give me this moment. And that's what the All-Stars and the other groups, we always hope for. Give me that moment, give me this one, and that's why we battle. This is my moment, I'm going to take this moment from you on the dance floor, If they don't give it to me, it's a battle, but, this is my moment. So, yeah, I think it's wonderful, man, to see that.
Well, coming from the classic old school, do you have any messages that you like giving to the newer generation? There's going to be a bunch of kids in Lincoln Park and they're about to watch you. Do you usually deliver messages to the young people?
Well, I don't deliver messages because I'm sure they don't want no sermon, but I do gotta say that I just think that life, when you know better, you do better. And that might seem a little bit, but it's the truth because, when you know better and you know your craft or you really, put yourself out there, sometimes it's going to be good and sometimes it's not going to be so good, but you're there, you're sticking with it, and it's really hard. And I'm going to tell you from the bottom of my heart, whatever is left, because I've had a road ahead and I've not stopped. And I never thought that the things that I'm doing now, that I would, at my age, that I would be able to do and accomplish that would make me feel with the same joyful feeling as if I was younger, 30, in my 20s. So that's why it's never ending, and the reason why is because now that I know better the stuff that I shouldn't have done or I should do, or judging my own self, then I can go a little bit further and say, let me do better. And that's actually the only thing I can say because a lot of us fall, but it's just, we gotta get up, and that's the only thing I would say to anybody. And it's wonderful to be leaders, it's wonderful to share your art. That's another little thing I'm gonna tell everybody, that, art is in each one of us, and art sometimes will make you mad because art would remind you of who you are in a secret way. And sometimes you can share that with people. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't care when I was an all-star, if I was in a battle, and if I was in a performance, I would share it with whoever came in that door. I don't care if you were from another group, because that means that every time I was sharing my art, they were passing it through, and they were learning it, and then they were doing it better, or, continuing it. So it's not where I have to keep it a secret, So that's one of the things that even now at this age, I have seen Troy and a couple of the other dancers at events at their house, recently on Facebook, and they were doing some kind of dance. And it was dances that I've done. And I was like, look at these old folks doing these dances. So art stays there. Especially you, what you're doing, it's going to stay there. All the mark that you're leaving to your community, So it's like a special legacy. So that's what I say to other young people. You know, just do what you love, and it will stay there.
That is such a strong statement, Jose Gringo Echevarria. The book is The Real Dance Fever. The follow up would be The Journey, and August the 5th will all be at Lincoln Park for a big event. I do appreciate you spending as much time as you have on the Celebrity Hotline and sharing your story, because it's a story that deserves to be told. You don't want this history to get buried.
No, not at all. And I appreciate, especially people like you that give, artists like me and people from the community here a voice and able to share this. That's pretty awesome. My hat off to you for calling me and doing this interview. And thank you to your listeners. Again, we're going to be at the Sojak Digital Party, Lincoln Park, August 5th. It's my birthday. I'll be performing music from Numo Dan and a performance by Ariel Reynolds. Please come over and check us out.
That's going to be a blast. Thanks a lot. Hang on. Harv Roman again, Extreme Radio Mix. We kind of ended the conversation a little while ago with Jose Gringo Echevarria, the author of The Real Dance Fever, Book 1, The Beginning, but then again, Part 2, The Journey. And he's an all-star dancer, and we talked about so many things in about 45 minutes. And then as soon as we said our goodbyes, we both said to each other, wait a minute, we didn't talk about the DJ culture and how important the DJs were to the cultures of the dance group. And I have to attest to that because, my DJ at the time, Tony Boom Boom Badea, he was giving me tapes at WCYC, and he was also helping to put together the music when the Zodiacs were performing, as kids here in the neighborhood in Westtown Commercial Park. So I know that the DJs and the editing and the music, your routines would not have been the same without the DJs.
No, not at all. I'm going to tell you, I'm so happy that, we're able to, talk about this little part before we leave, because they were like rock stars. It's so cool that the Zodiacs had their DJ because, in the beginning, the early days, remember when they had the boombox with the double cassette? Well, our DJ, his name is Frank Diaz. And I remember we had a boombox, bro, that had some buttons missing, and some of the cassettes you didn't even have the little flap to open it. You had to just hold it, But he was able to do the best mix for us. Can you believe that? And he did so many good mixes for us that the other dance groups would tell us, man, who did your music? So, but when we used to go to the clubs to dance, back then there were DJs like Mike Swazzlebar. We had Fly Hula Hula Fox. Ralphie Rosario was great. He was just awesome and put us in a trance. Kenny Jason, he was also always there. It was these DJs that you hear now that are legendary DJs that are being heard all over the world. And when I say all over the world, I mean all over the world. I'm not kidding.
When
Those were the DJs.
When Ralphie comes home to spin, it's usually because he was just in Germany or something like that.
Yeah, really. There you go. Right. So, exactly, they belong to the world now, But back then, we were hanging out and they were doing their craft and we were doing ours. It was those DJs, we lived for them because when we would hear those names, we knew, oh man, we gotta go to the dance floor or we're gonna go follow them to wherever they went. And when they would be in a battle, believe it, there we were cheering for them. So yeah, the music was a real special part, and not only the DJs, but the music back then, the type of music we used, and the new music, how music was changing really quick. You know, we had disco, and then we went from disco. You know, then we had the electronic music, and then we had different music just coming in really quick. So yeah, the DJs were awesome. Mike Sloss, Jeff Davis, Tony Gogo Gonzalez. They were, that's to name a few. You know, in my book, there and I think in the last page, I name all the DJs that I remembered from back then. And when I say back then, I don't mean like, oh, you know, they're gone and forgotten. No, I mean they were back then and they're still now. You know, and doing their thing. A lot of them, you know, make.
It was very cool of you to include the names in the back. It was also very cool of you. You have a picture section there, and so there's nice little flashbacks of the dance crews, and not only your dance crew, all the other dance crews. So you paid respect to so many different people in that culture, when in essence you really didn't have to. You know, it's your book, and you could have said I'm Gringo all the time. But you got pictures of lady dancers, your competing dancers. You was Wasnabar as the DJ. You paid respect to as many people in the culture as you could, and that's kudos to you, because if you're not mentioning the stuff that you know, it's like seeing your name on a flyer back then and you get all excited. Well, now they get to see their name in a book.
Yeah, you know, Harv, that's because we all do this together, you know. We all do this history together, and we all walk the walk together when we walked it. And I don't think that I can have a memory or a moment in time that I can share in my mind and not have someone there that was there, you know, in any given moment of what happened. So it's really special because the same hopes and dreams that I'm doing now as an author and as a music producer, and back then with the All Stars, the same hopes and dreams that every DJ wants his spotlight, that every performer wants their spotlight, and that's why I kind of wanted to immortalize these people in my book. I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow or anybody else, but we have something solid that I wrote. Hey, the platform is open for anybody else to write what they want to write. We have done our part, you know, in giving what we give. This was just my little thing for, you know, generations to come, or, you know, ourselves to say, let me get that book and see, you know, what he said and, you know, go down memory lane. But, yeah, you know, these DJs help us out a lot. They help us out a lot. You know, they brought the music, they brought the speakers, they would do mixes for us. They would, you know, a lot of us, back then really didn't have a lot of money to get in. They would, you know, put us on the guest list. You know, they were great, man, and they're still great. And so I'm really happy and thankful that you know, before we left, that you kind of gave me this little moment to salute them. You know, I'm working with great DJs that love the passion of music, and sometimes I don't think people give them the credit that they deserve, because they wouldn't be doing what they're doing if they didn't have that love and that respect and that passion for what they're doing. And it's an art form, you know. And when a lot of people go to parties and stuff, if you don't got the right person that knows how to, you know, get that party started for you and knows, you know, exactly what you want, then you're just gonna have, you know, a party. That's it. Just a party. It was okay. It was all right, you know. But they set the mood, you know, and it makes me proud. So when I hear the names, you know, of these DJs, and they've been great, and it also makes me proud of being from Chicago, because there was times I was in Puerto Rico, and I was in different places, and in California, and I could hear the music, you know, like Liz Torres. I was in Puerto Rico, and there I was having, you know, margarita drink, and there was, you know, in the club, there was Liz Torres, No More Mind Games, you know.
She is the original house.
Yeah, you know, it was like, wow, that's awesome. You know, our people, you know, so that's what it's all about, you know, and that's why, you know, I hope that what we've talked about in the book, or anything, the music, anything that we've talked about will inspire anyone to take whatever they want to do and take it a step further. You know, that's the only reason why we talk, and that's why we try to trigger you, to enlighten you, to inform you, and to share with you, because I was that person that I was looking or trying to hear or trying to capture that one. Oh, that's what I needed to hear. Or that's what I want to do like him. Or I want to find this out because I heard them talk on the radio. Something in life will set you to that path. So I hope that happens, by this conversation that you gifted me to have with you, and your listeners.
Well, the documentation is so important, and when our time has come and gone, hopefully the conversation will be in cyberspace somewhere, and the book will be on a bookshelf somewhere, and generations to come will be able to relive this, because it's an era that you can try to duplicate it, but you can't. It was a very specific point in time. And when you start a thread on Facebook and you get all these clicks and comments, it's because it's an era that struck a nerve, and people miss these kind of days.
Yeah, it was, and I haven't other than what was it, the John Travolta movie Dance Fever? Is it
Saturday Night Fever?
Saturday Night Fever. There you go. Saturday Night Fever and the musical Rent and Staying Alive and all those. I kind of see our story a little bit of that, because it goes from the beginning to just innocent people to the music and the dreams that we all want, and then it goes back into a life of reality. But yeah, the documentation is there. And I hope that, like I said, one day, somewhere, maybe one day in time, Harv, someone will click in their mind to say, I know where to take this story. And the story is there. I wrote the book is there. Now the audience is there for you to make it and take it and go for it and take it where it takes you. Because that also always happens with stories in life. People do stories and then someone decides, I'm going to adapt this into whatever. And it's there. That's why I did. I didn't do it to put it away. I didn't do it so no one will touch it. I didn't know. I did it so whatever it makes you think, then that's whatever it has to be, because that's art,
Oh, it's a very important step. It kind of reminds me of when the museum downtown did a couple of summers ago. They did a house music exhibit at the museum downtown by Grant Park, and I thought it was so important because it was the sound of Chicago, and the cult understands and the fans understands and people that go to the shows and few understand, but everybody needs to understand how important house music was at the time. And all of a sudden you're in a legitimate museum. It's a legitimate exhibit, and then you get to relive some of these things. And I went there a couple of times, and I took pictures and stuff, and I said, this is very, very important. And I'm the book and any documentation, any films or anything that come of it, it's gonna be a legacy, and so why not?
Yeah, well, Harv, you are a museum. You know that. You yourself have a lot of documentation and have a lot of information on a lot of real. When I say real, I mean down home, real people that sometimes might have reached a point of stardom, and that's wonderful. But you got to see and be there, at the raw moment where they're just showing you their heart and their eagerness to be heard and to be wanted. You are a Gringo. You are one of those that are sharing your platform to give props to others. So it keeps on. Sometimes we don't notice that, and sometimes we don't even have to talk to the young people and give them the advice. It's like a lot of young people, they don't want to hear nothing from folks, but they're always, redoing the oldies, and they're redoing the mixes, and they like this and they like that. I'm like, wait a minute, that's our style, So sometimes it's like you leave them alone, and they're just investigating you and trying to and say, oh, that happened to me. But no, you are a museum. You have a lot of information. You have a lot of moments that you've shared with people. So that in itself, I got to go to that museum, though, because it would be great to see the things there. And you know what? I wonder why we don't have anything like that. We should have something like that for us.
Well, that's something that, if not downtown, why wouldn't the Field House in Humboldt Park do something like that? It probably
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of. Could you imagine the stuff that we will be getting in from people? We can try that right now. If anyone's interested and that know that you have any pictures and flyers, and you can make copies of it and give it to us, or get a hold of Harv. And we there's a lot of things that we have. Harv, when I started doing the chronological work to my book and the dates and all that, and I needed to get information, I did that. I was asking people. I really didn't think anyone was going to give me. I had boxes of stuff, flyers, and I had information, and I had all the pictures, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. People are willing to share those memories because, they want to kind of archive it and kind of pass it on.
Well, I've been fortunate because I put in so many years with the Boys and Girls Clubs, then I put in so many years with freestyle and house music radio that kind of became my thing, and since I never throw anything away, which is probably why I'm still single, I've got some nice little collections of things here and there. But that's something that we should actually, we're just talking about it kind of now off the top of our heads, but that's something we probably should get together and have a conversation about. Why not go to the Field House?
Not we. But I think that you deserve that, and I think that you deserve it in the way that we can find. We should get into that. We should find out some more information about that. We should get. You have a great collection of recordings and a great collection of pictures and stuff, and everything can be done really good and clipped and cut and stuff. And I say that with excitement because I know that the public wants to hear that, and not only that, the public wants to hear that is that you have that. That's there. That's tangible. That has to be heard and passed. That's art. That's information, that's history. That's part of other generations from our own friends, kids, and people around that would love to know some information. So I think we should really look into that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. So, thanks again for the conversation. We're going to bump into each other on August the 5th, if not before then, and it'll be neat.
So I hope to see everybody at the Soul Jack Digital House Boogie Party Part 2 with house music DJs, Umo Dan, Ariel Reynolds, and yours truly. Thank you, Harv, for this great conversation.
There you go. Thanks again.
Wake up. Wake up dancing. Wake up dancing. Wake up dancing. Harv Roman's gonna make you dance. Wake up dancing, wake up dancing, wake up dancing, wake up, Harv Roman's gonna make you dance.